Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I am so happy to have you here with us, and especially for today with this fantastic conversation we are having about hormones, women's hormones, low energy levels, and why women need to shift their thinking about perimenopause and menopause. Ooh, this is going to be so good. My special guest today is Bria Gadd. She's a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, holistic health coach, and certified personal trainer. She specializes in female hormones, helping women with releasing weight and energy gain in pre and post menopause and helping them find clarity in hormonal chaos. Oh, yeah. Her podcast, The Period Whisperer, is a top 1% wellness podcast in the world, and she has an Instagram following of over 17,000. I am so happy to welcome Bria to the show today and talk about this really important topic that, is just swirling around in women's wellness, but we want some clarity on that. So, welcome, Bria.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so grateful to be here.
Well, I am so happy you're here. And I always like to ask my guests to kick it off, like, what are you treasuring right now in the season of your life? So tell us what you're treasuring.
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. And I think what I am working on treasuring, I'll say actively, is the call to presence, I think,
Hmm.
at this stage of life in like body, mind, and soul. I think in midlife, I'm in my mid 40s. For me, I feel like time has sped up. So I'm like, there's this reminder to be really present that way. I have a daughter going off to college in the fall, a son starting high school. So there's like a real call to presence to be there with them, like in our moments together, because it goes so quickly, as anyone who has children knows. And then a real call to presence in my body to listen to what she's saying and kind of really connect there as well.
I love that. It's so presence is, you're right. The older we get, the more we feel that it is so important to fully be present because we've all had those moments as moms where we weren't fully present. And then we kind of felt guilty about that, or we just felt all in our feels about that. Like I could have, would have, should have kind of thing. And, we don't want to live there, but we also want to learn from that experience. So, I agree. There's something about, with age comes wisdom. So
Yeah, I
I
think
love it.
I agree.
Well, we are going to just jump right in. You talk about health debt
Yeah.
as the silent reason why so many women in their 40s and 50s specifically suddenly are feeling like their bodies, or seemingly suddenly feel like their bodies are just betraying them, right? I've heard women say, my body hates me.
Mhm.
I know you've heard that too. Will you
Yeah.
walk us through what health debt actually is, how it kind of builds from our 20s and our 30s, and why it's showing up as fatigue, weight gain, mood swings, hormonal chaos, kind of like I said, seemingly when we seem to hit midlife.
Yeah, like it happens overnight because we didn't
Right.
notice it started,
Right.
I guess. Yeah, I love this. I really think our body runs on one very important currency, which is energy. And so I like this term health debt because I think we can take a bit of emotion out of things sometimes and and use a metaphor of money and debt the same way. If you think of energy as our body's, currency to use, then everything in our health sort of and our body's ability to function comes down to energy demand and energy supply. Energy demand comes from certainly, stressful situations, certainly just functioning in daily life, keeping the body alive, fighting sickness, doing all of the amazing things that we want to do as women, raise our children, have children, um, you know, help our community, run our business, get to work, do all the hundreds of things that we do every single day. And also energy supply, which I think most commonly comes from sleep and rest, quality nutrition, and pleasure, purpose, a connection to something bigger than us. I think that's really where the bulk of our energy comes into the body. And health debt is really when the energy supply to the body is no longer meeting the energy demand of the body. And we find ourselves in this debt. Now, sometimes that can be because we've been too long with too much demand. We have been not aware of where our energy supply is coming in. And sometimes the energy supply pipeline, like the actual chains in our gut, in our thyroid, in our adrenals, sometimes those get a little leaky like a hose or a little kinked like a hose. So then the supply isn't as powerful as it really could be. And like financial debt, it compounds. It doesn't get to just sit there. It's kind of rough like a credit card debt that really just compounds at such a large amount. And when we're young, most people are born with a really beautiful trust fund of energy supply, like in our body. But through the decades, through the situations we go through and the demand we put on our body and the things we want to achieve, and maybe the sickness that we go through, that bank account, that trust fund starts to decline. And I think, Michelle, it really peaks in this perimenopause to menopause because this is one of the largest hormonal transitions in a woman's life. We have perimenopause or puberty, we have pregnancy, and we have
Right.
perimenopause, which is really the retiring of our ovaries, the transitioning from being fertile to, I think, a more wise opportunity for us at a different time in our life. And like, I think every woman can really understand all transitions, whether you're moving, whether you're changing jobs, whether your kids are going through a transition, requires more energy. And so I think this is where the tipping point really happens for so many women. And I know, in the years that I've been working with women and in my own life, we're often kind of redlining this like paycheck to
Mm.
paycheck with our energy supply
Mm-hmm.
and demand. And then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, oh, the ovaries are like, yeah, hey, it's my turn. I'm winding down over here. And that just tips us into this energy supply and demand deficit. And that is really where we start to see a lot of symptoms simply because our body is beautifully designed to keep us alive and to survive. And so it will do things like slow down our metabolism, which is where we start to see weight gain. It will shut down non essential personnel to save energy, which really is our sex hormones. They're not required for us to survive. So then we see, a lower libido, or we see, not as many results, or we start to have some issues with our hormones earlier than we would expect, brain fog. And then if we still don't listen to that call, I think, and adjust, get out of that debt, then we often start to see things like the body will move into the next phase of survival, where it will kind of pilfer energy from other parts of our body to keep us alive and keep us functioning. And that's where I think we can start to see more thyroid issues, more adrenal issues, more gut health issues. And then it just kind of sinks us.
It does. It feels like it might be overnight, but it really is a slow fade. It's a slow depletion of the essential energy that we need in our body. And so that's why I love so much that you've coined that health debt because it is so true, and we've all heard you can't pour from an empty cup and all of that. And while these are true statements, high achieving, high responsibility women are just continuing to push through and go, go, go. So it does seem like they just wake up one morning and they're like completely exhausted. They're having mood swings. Their skin is like super dry, like, the desert. And like
Yeah.
all of these things are happening, but it was never a quick overnight. The body has been speaking. And if the body doesn't get our attention through the whisper, it'll start raising its voice and get louder and louder until it's screaming at us.
Yep. Yes.
So, yeah, that is so good information too, because we do need to recognize that it is a slow fade so
Yeah.
that we can then also recognize it's not an easy button quick fix and you're gonna rebound overnight. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I love that you said that because I think, we understand in life that trust takes time. If we foster animals or foster children or we, connect with someone new, especially if they've had broken trust, it takes
Right.
longer to build that. And our relationship with ourself and our body is the exact same way. If we have kind of not been listening, not been paying attention, not been nourishing appropriately, then it takes a little time for the body to say, is this real? Can I exhale and trust here? And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the hardest parts for us to understand.
It really is because we're just so used to moving forward and persevering and being productive. Like we wear busy like a badge of honor, even though it's bringing us down. We keep on. And so when you or I say things like the body needs to feel safe and secure to heal and recover, it takes a bit for the average woman who is in that cycle of going and doing and being everything for everyone to pause and like, okay, what do I need?
Mhm.
Some of the symptoms and signals the speaking my body has given me is, okay, I think I need to stop and listen
Yeah.
and just start with one thing. Like, we don't have to, and I know we'll get into all of that, but we don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater and do everything all at once,
Yeah.
because that's not sustainable for sure. So, I will say, I want to keep on this topic for a little bit more about this health debt because again, I believe that it requires a massive mindset shift, but it doesn't have to be massive all at once and in the beginning. So, what you talk about how it requires a reset with that mindset shift. So, what does that actually look like for the average high achieving, high responsibility woman in the midlife season who is just knows that she's in her emotions, her hormones, she's done with band-aid fixes, but she's not really sure what to do next. Walk us through some practical steps.
Yeah. So I think the mindset shift here again is really seeing the truth that our body is designed to survive. So if your body is speaking these messages to you, whispering or now screaming, like it's not your body revolting against you. It's actually her trying very powerfully to keep you alive. And I think as a step one is just really wrapping our mind around the fact that historically as women, when we aren't getting the result that we want or we're not feeling well in our bodies, our instinct, as you were saying, is to do more. What can I do? What can I work out harder? Can I, change how I'm eating? Can I eat less? And when you really apply that to this metaphor of a body trying to survive, if you were on a deserted island and you didn't know where your source of safety or food or nourishment is coming from, is the right thing to do to go for a run on the beach? It seems so backwards, I think, when we really unwind it like that and start to think, oh, okay. And I think when women can wrap their mind around, like, I'm working with my body, she's not working against me, it's not a revolt here. I think that can be helpful in us understanding, like, okay, things have to be done a little differently. What does she need to feel safe? And so the practical steps, I think one of my favorite ways, because women are so exceptional at putting everyone above themselves, especially our
Yes.
children, which I think is a really important thing many times. Not all the times, but many times.
Right.
So, but I think we know innately as mothers, as women, as caregivers, how to care for our children in the most bare bones way. We know that they need consistent, proper nutrition in meals, not
Mhm.
skipping meals, not having caffeine instead of meals, not,
Right.
you know, allowing them to have sugar for meals. We really understand that they need to have a breakfast, a lunch, a dinner, and then ideally not snacking consistently in between because it will impact things. We understand that our kids need to have a proper bedtime routine. We give them baths, we read them books, we wind them down so that they can sleep. And we understand that our kids need activity and they need play and they need all these other things. And yet we don't do these things for ourselves, but those are the very foundational pieces of health, human or animal. If you look into that world. So I think when we're looking for steps, and I can certainly be more specific, I think recognizing the bare bone needs of a healthy body, human or animal. So a lot, if you don't have children, you probably have fur babies and you do the same thing. You feed them on a clock, you walk them every day, like we do the same thing. Then we need to honor this relationship with ourself and our body's needs the same way.
Yeah, and I think that that is such a very important distinction. And like out of everything else we're going to talk about today, like I would start there because that is vital. Like if we continue to have this mindset of I have to do it, it's all up to me, I'm a perfectionist, I have to keep pushing through, nobody can help me, whatever, and this can stem from a lifetime, right? If we don't settle that in our mind, we're going to keep doing the same loop and we're going to continue to feel like what we're doing isn't working. But it's really just the subtle mindset shift that does take time. I mean, this is no easy button. It takes time. It takes that grace and grit that I talk with my clients about because you want to be gentle with yourself, but you also want to like get back on the horse every single day. We have a new day. Everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. And so, yeah, that mindset shift is very, very important. And
Mhm.
with that, you talk about perimenopause and menopause being a gift.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I really do. Again, with age comes wisdom. There's freedom in 40s and 50s and beyond, and just having lived a life. And so, explain how, because most women are not looking at perimenopause and menopause as a gift, right? So
Yeah.
we need to help them to reframe this. And again, this is along with the mindset shift. So what is the gift exactly? And how can a woman just really lean into that? Again, shifting her mindset to help her pay off her health debt and really step into the vitality that she wants with her hormones and her wellness.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I have come to look at it as a gift in two ways. First and foremost, I think with this added demand that we more commonly shift us into some debt or at least like redlining a little bit, I think it really kind of is like a great big highlighter into our health of where our opportunities and where our weak spots are, so that we can fix them because this is happening for most women in, from late 30s to early 50s. And, I don't know about you, Michelle, but I mean, I plan to live to my 90s or maybe 100. So that's decades away. And if
Right.
we get on this now, if we really listen and start to build that connection with our body now, then we have this opportunity of all of these decades ahead of us in a very different chapter of our life. So there's that one kind of side of it where I think, yeah, it's not the gift you wanted, but it's the gift you needed. And so we want to take advantage of that opportunity. And I think the women who really do really see the benefits and reap the rewards of that going forward. And the other side is like physiologically, our cycle ending, like from puberty to perimenopause, we've been a little hormonally hijacked every single month in the name of procreation, in the name of bringing, new life into this world, which is an absolute miracle. And also pushes us hormonally to be more amenable to things that might not naturally be amenable to us, to, of course, put other human beings ahead of ourselves, and our needs necessarily for a while in the name of survival, in a name of life coming forward, right, as we have children. And that's shifting where we don't have a hormonal hijacking every month. We get to move into this place of wisdom. And I think it helps us access our needs and our desires and our connection to other things in a more clear way without every month feeling like you are one person half the month and another person the other half the month. So I think that there's a really cool win in there for women where we get to go after our dreams or the things that really drive purpose and connection for us, where we just, because we're closing a chapter of rebirth and having children and things like that, which is just different.
It is. And, I agree. One of the topics that comes up in conversation with the women that I work with is basically dreams deferred. Dreams deferred, where, they've not been able to um, really see through a vision or a call that God has put on their lives. And they feel like that's just so far in the future, it's just not going to happen, or that it's just, yeah, it was a great dream, but it's not for me. And a lot of that can be because of we are natural caretakers. We are natural givers and doers. And so sometimes we have those boomerang kids that leave and they come back. They leave, they come back. And so we feel like we have one foot in this new season where our body is changing and we're trying to embrace it, but then we have another foot in the old season and all of that. And so that pull is very strong for us to maintain what we always did and defer our dreams. So, what would you say about that?
Yeah, I think that is a very real part of the transition, right? And I think that that is our opportunity, and a part of that gift is, you
Yeah.
know, I mean, not, I really, not all success is measured, financially, but what we can tangibly measure is that the most successful women in this world primarily didn't achieve that success until post-menopause, because
Right.
it's a different phase of our lives. And I think it is, the boomerang children is especially, I mean, we don't know if that's going to happen for us or not. And
Right.
at the same time, I think it's so important for us to model and not martyr for ourselves, for our children, to show them what it
Absolutely.
means to go after our dreams, whatever those are for you, and not just wait around for them to achieve theirs. So I think, yeah, that's what I would say around that, as well as that that's very real. And this is, again, this is your opportunity, whether your dream is to, build a beautiful garden and just be able to putter around in it all day, or whether your dream is to build a huge business or anything in between. It's all
Yeah.
there for you, and it's hormonally supported now.
hmm I love that. It's so true because a lot of us, we joke about living vicariously through our children, like experiencing what they're experiencing through their eyes and everything. But there's a real danger in staying there. And, we are given this gift of time in the season of life where we are able to, if we are still married, to like really reignite that relationship and just really get to know each other even more on a totally different level. The stress levels are generally lower in the sense of where you don't have constant, children and children's activities. So it shifts. Like it's not saying the stress is better or worse, it's just different in this season of life. And so, embracing that and looking at the season as a gift can really help it again. It can help your body feel safe. It can help your body. It's that mindset shift that you were talking about to help our body feel safe and secure. So it's so important. I love that.
Yeah, and it's a very different outlook to go into something and be like, what's my body saying to me? Like, this is my opportunity. Let's figure this out so we can go
Yeah.
after whatever we want, versus, oh, this is the beginning of the end, or oh, I'm just getting older,
Right.
or oh, I'll never feel, like it's a very
Yeah.
different experience of the same thing.
Absolutely. And I will say that there's so much noise in women's wellness, especially now more than ever.
Yep.
And with the introduction of AI, everybody's typing in their labs and their symptoms and their this and their that, and they're just getting even more information overload.
Yeah.
And one of those things, there's a danger in that too, but one of those things that is especially wrapped around women's wellness is peptides.
Yeah.
It's the big peptide hype. They're just blowing up. It's just blowing up in wellness. And you've got two ends of the spectrum. Some are saying, well, this is just another expensive hype. It's just another shiny object. And others are saying, no, this is the next big thing for women's hormones. And I would love your opinion on that because as you're helping women, guiding them out of their health debt and supporting their hormones, What is real about peptides? What's overhyped? What is the exciting next wave of peptide use that actually could help women reset their hormones? And is it something that women should be looking into?
Yeah, great question. Um, so I'll bring it back just to this concept of health debt. If we're in health debt, which many women are, I think it's an inevitable redlining thing, especially in our culture, in our society. Like financial debt, what is our first step to get out of debt? We need to look at our life and reduce unnecessary expenses, unnecessary energy demand. So maybe we go through and we think, okay, maybe it's time for me to pull back on my intense workouts. Maybe it's time for me to really rejig my nutrition because, you know, drinking wine or too much caffeine or, those things don't actually add any nourishment. They, in fact, just take things away. So we kind of, first we cut things back on that budget. And then we maybe look to our energy supply and we think, okay, how do we increase this energy supply? How do we increase our income, our currency into the body? So we work on, better quality nutrition. We work on, better quality sleep and rest. We work on more pleasure, a deeper connection, getting back into our community, whatever that looks like for you. And then we, of course, I think need to look at our energy pipelines into the body to optimize our hormones, right? So that's when I think where, for me, functional lab work, functional testing can be really supportive for people. Let's see, how is the gut? How is the thyroid, the adrenals, all of these things. And this is what gets us out of debt and into a place where we have savings, a buffer. Once we're there, I think what we see a lot of people doing with their finances, once you have this savings and this buffer, is we invest. So I actually think of peptides as an opportunity to next level in your health, should you want it. Everyone's investment strategies, everyone's feelings around investment are going to be really different. Um, but it must happen after all of these things. In any financial advice, you aren't going to invest, especially a riskier investment, which could pay off wonderfully or could do not much for you if you're in debt, if you need to pay off debt. So I think the first thing I always want to say about peptides, which we have a lot of beautiful research and science is showing is, can be very safe and can be very positive if used appropriately, is that they are a next level down the line. Make sure you have your ducks in a row. Hormones are optimized option. So, as a functional practitioner, I think some of the challenges around it is that it is one being socially shared in ways that I'm not sure are very safe. It's, just buying it because it worked for your cousin is not, in my opinion, the safest thing to do because all of our bodies are individual. So I think that's one of the things to be conscious of is one, is my body in a place to receive this? Is it an investment I even want to make? Because what I have seen in my practice is that it can be very beneficial for people. So maybe I'll try to make that more clear for everyone listening, because that sounded a little bit vague, but peptides really are small chains of amino acids, and ultimately they're little messengers in the body, kind of like hormones. Hormones are messengers, but peptides kind of tell cells what to do, where to go, as opposed to maybe telling a process to happen with a hormone. And what we know to be true is that through years of chronic stress, which, this is why you and I do what we do, is to help unwind that for people. This messaging breaks down kind of like a broken telephone, right? So the message no longer happens. And this is where we're seeing and the research is showing the beautiful benefit of what peptides can do, because most peptides are made in the body. So if the messaging has broken down and we can restore that messaging again for a short period of time, then that can make a huge difference in how we feel in our body. But in my opinion, peptides should be a short-term plan to reestablish connection while we are doing the underlying things to come back from. They're not like hormones where when your ovaries retire, if hormone replacement therapy is for you and you take it and it helps you feel better, that will be forever because you're never going to make those amount of hormones. Your ovaries have retired. But peptides really should reestablish that connection. And if your habits and your finances are in order, your energy is in order in your body, it should be a very short-term thing.
I really appreciate the way you just explained that, Bria, because so often women are so desperate that they put the cart before the horse.
Yeah,
And there's no judgment in that because there's so much noise. Of course, you're going to try anything to feel better, to
yeah,
sleep better, to move better, to not have pain. Of course, you're going to do that. And so, I applaud all the women that are trying, that continuously trying, but it might not be the thing that you need
yeah,
if you have all of these other things that have not been addressed yet. And
yeah,
we both know gut health is so vital to everything working the way it should. The communication between the brain and the body, the brain and the gut and the brain is huge. And if communication is broken, or if it sounds like, the telephone game where as
yeah,
it goes down the line, it gets more and more jumbled and very unclear, then you can pay a lot of money, spend a lot of money, invest
yeah,
a lot of money into these modalities like peptides, like a Rife machine, like anything else, fill in the blank.
yeah.
And it's only going to do so much. And then you're left thinking, I spent all this money, nothing works for me. And it's just, again, it keeps us in that loop, which
Yeah.
is, yeah.
I completely agree with you. I think a really great way for women to understand peptides is that they enhance what is already there. So, because they require signaling, they require, they require other things. They're not a magic pill. So, it's same with hormones, right? We can take hormone replacement if your hormones are low, but if your hormone pathways aren't great, if the hormone signaling it needs some support, you're going to be one of these women who's like, yeah, it didn't work for me. Or worse, you felt worse. And I think that's
Right.
where it is really important to, I think always work with a practitioner, when it comes to any type of prescription, anything like peptide or hormones. I think it's very important to work with someone who understands the art and the science of these things and is willing to look under the hood of your body to make sure it is the best situation for you to take and so that you get the best result out of it because peptides are not cheap.
They're not. And this is what sets holistic and functional wellness, I should
Mhm.
say, because it's not really medicine,
Yeah.
apart because, practitioners like you and I, we are looking under the hood. We are looking downstream, what's going on in the body as a whole, not just compartmentalizing. And that is where you're going to get your answers. That is where you're going to, as you're working on these mindset shifts and you're getting some answers, that's when you get that transformation that you've been looking for and thinking that all these things are not working. And to your point about peptides as well, it's almost like supplements as well, because like supplements were designed to supplement an already healthy diet, nutrition. When I say diet, I'm meaning the food that we're eating, not we're not doing diets.
Yeah.
So if your gut is still taking in, a lot of the processed foods, the ultra processed foods, then that supplement you're taking to help your gut is only going to work so far, right? So it's all connected.
It is, I completely agree with you. And I think, again, some of the beautiful aspects of peptides, I mean, we know they're different than, than like pharmacy medication because they are bioidentical to what our body makes. And so the body knows what to do with it and how to get it out, to use it and to lose it, which is really what we want with anything going in our body. We want it to come in, do what it needs to, and get out. We don't want anything
Right,
sticking around for years.
right.
So in a healthy, in a safe environment, maybe you are someone who has, really, nourished your gut. You're not eating things that irritate the gut. You've looked under the hood. Maybe you've done a GI map or some type of lab work to see, what's going on in there. And we've done some of the supplements with a practitioner. There are peptides that can be very helpful to restore gut health, in a more effective and efficient way than, if you're struggling to absorb things. Because we do live in a world where we're constantly pulled in different directions. I always think, and you probably feel the same, Michelle, like if I could scoop my clients up and take them to Costa Rica for 6 weeks to 8 weeks, we would get results a heck of a lot faster because it's like
Absolutely.
the biggest loser worked. No one's going anywhere else. This is all we're focused on, just your health,
Right.
just you. So,
Right.
I think that is the opportunity that we're seeing with peptide therapy is that it, for the most part, when it's used and dosed properly in a body that's receptive to it, it works really well and, much faster than sometimes just swallowing supplements can do. But again, it must be done in an appropriate protocol, and it really needs to be sourced safely. I think that's another important one for people.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, we could have a whole other 15 minutes on that right there. How often would you say that, say somebody does find a practitioner that does the peptides and offers them, how often should they be followed up with, in your opinion?
Oh, so I mean, in my practice, I'm a non-prescribing practitioner, I think, like you. So I refer to a telehealth company. I'm following up with my clients. I'm talking to them every week or every 2 weeks. I think that's important in the beginning, at least, to be adjusting these things. We're not going to get that care with a prescribing practitioner. It's just not part of the
Right.
model.
Yeah.
But I do really think it is important to be on top of this thing with someone who understands the nuances of it more frequently than we are. But I would say in a prescribing practice, at minimum, every month.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way. And sadly, that's probably not what's happening. And again, this is where women's wellness is not in alignment with the way you and I do things with our clients. And that's the frustration part of it as well. With insurance companies dictating what doctors can and cannot do and all of that. So, yeah.
I think the last thing or the one thing I will say on it is, there are hundreds of amazing peptides out there. The ones we hear about the most are going to be, the GLPs, the semaglutide, the tirzepatide, the weight loss peptides. And I do think for a lot of women, there can be a lot of shame around even sharing that that's something you're interested in wanting. And so we don't ask for the help, or we do go under the radar and try to get it in maybe a way that other people aren't going to know. And I really want to dispel some of that shame around the fact that there is some amazing benefits and research to what a small and an appropriate amount of these peptides can offer for you if you are stuck, again, when used properly. So I think it is best practice to reach out to someone who can help you with it and really inquire so that you don't have that guilt and shame and understand what peptides do.
Yes, 100%. Because you've seen the commercials like I have, right? I mean, you can just order anything you want almost now online and have it shipped to your door overnight, and then you're injecting yourself with who knows what.
Yeah.
Really, who knows what.
100%.
And the follow-up is so important. It's so vital. I mean, that's where
Yeah.
uh, the challenges are overcome because you're having the communication, you're having the oh, this is a challenge, or this is how I'm feeling, or this is how my body's reacting. Is this right? Is this
Yeah.
okay? And tweaking and changing, and not this mentality of, oh, you can just be on this for the rest of your life.
And you should
That's
not.
dangerous. That is incredibly dangerous
Yeah.
and irresponsible.
I completely agree. I think it's really important. And of course, as we already talked about, most importantly, first is how are you nourishing your body? How
Yeah.
are, body, mind, and soul? How are you moving your body in support so that when we come off of the peptides, as we should, all of them need to be cycled, in my opinion. And really, the research says that.
Yes.
That you're going to seamlessly move into a really comfortable, I'm not on medication for the rest of my life situation.
Exactly. I love that. That's a perfect segue into I know we have to wrap up because of time, but I would love for you to just leave one final thought for our listeners, some encouragement, leave them with a treasured truth today.
Yeah, there's so many treasured truths. I think, the biggest thing I always want women to really understand is that their body is just like one of their own children. It is a connection and a relationship we want to foster and we want to spend time with and we want to be present in and we want to
Mm.
listen to and build trust with for optimization, long term. It's like a marathon and not a sprint. So remember that your body is on your side. She's
Mm.
beautifully designed to survive and to keep you alive. And you need to check in with her. You need to hear. And if you don't understand what she's saying, it's time to get a translator. And that's where someone like Michelle or someone like me can be very helpful in helping you understand the messages of your body. And I think the good news in that is once you learn to speak your own body's language, you probably don't need to hire people like us anymore as much. So I think that's an important piece that I always want for my clients.
Yes, that is so true. I've always said I don't want a client for life because that means I've done my job well.
Yes.
So they can just go and fly and then teach to the next generation so that
Oh,
they have generational health in their family.
yeah. I love that.
That is so beautiful. Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insight with us. I'm going to be linking all of your information in the show notes, but how can our listeners find you? And do you have anything that you would like to offer them?
Yeah, definitely. I think if talking specifically about hormones and testing and even peptides is something you want to learn more about, I have the Period Whisperer podcast anywhere you watch or listen to your podcast. And Michelle was so beautifully on my podcast recently. It will be coming out, so I think you'll want to come and listen to her. Or you can go to, I like to hang out on Instagram at Bria underscore period underscore whisperer. And from there, you can find I've got lots of little freebies, everything from the no fluff guide to what you need to know. So you're not overwhelmed by all the content to quick guides on peptides. There's a lot of right from there that you can access.
That is wonderful. Yeah, we don't want overwhelm. We do not want our clients overwhelmed. We don't want the women listening and tuning in to be overwhelmed at all because they have enough of that. We are trying to simplify and keep things doable so
Yeah.
that they are sustainable. So I love that. This has been so important, such an important topic, such a great conversation, and we could totally do this again and get even deeper. So I would love that. And Bria, thank you so much for sharing your time, your expertise, and your wisdom with us today.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for what you put out into the world and how you help women. It's so beautiful what you do.
Back at you, friend. Okay, thanks.